I teach something called the Alexander technique. So I teach all kinds of people, but especially actors. The Alexander technique is a mind-body technique that teaches people how to use themselves more efficiently in everyday life. So how you move, how you talk, how you breathe, all of those things are covered. Because Alexander technique people think is always associated with posture, but it's actually has nothing to do in the sense that that's not the main focus. So it's like if you think about exercising and you would go to a gym, hopefully you don't just want to be like a size 0 or a whatever weight. You go to be healthy and to lower your, cholesterol or whatever. And, posture is sort of a byproduct of learning Alexander technique, because when you learn how to use yourself better, you ultimately have better posture. It just comes. So those people who usually try for it or would like it, I always tell them that'll come, don't worry about it. Otherwise, they usually fix and strain and tighten in order to do something to have better posture.
Why is it important, or why does technique matter?
So the Alexander technique specifically, I think, is very important for actors, because I always talk to them about habits, the habits that they have that they don't know they have. The strain, the stress, the fidgets, the wiggles, anything that comes out. And I like to tell people, if you've ever done a show or a film or production and you've had a director more than once from 2 different productions tell you the same note, that's you. That's typically not an acting choice. It's something that you unconsciously do when you get out of character or you're not present in the moment. And so when you learn the Alexander technique, you are having a heightened sense of awareness about what it is that you're doing, where you're holding your breath, where you're tightening your shoulders, where you're gripping your hands, or bouncing your leg up and down. And then you have this, again, improved sense of awareness, so you're able to make conscious choices. So I tell people, I don't care what you do, as long as you know that you're doing it, and then it can be a choice. So nothing is unconscious, nothing is out of habit, or, I just always go here, I go to this place, or I go to this thing I do. It's always looking at where can I make choices that are going to contribute to either the scene or my character, so I can show up really being authentic to what this person is doing in this film, play, etc.
What do you think is the right amount of time that someone should study a technique?
I love this question, because everybody asks me, and I always return it back and I say, how long does does a singer take voice lessons? How long does a violinist study with their teacher? Technique, as the definition itself suggests, is a skill. And that's what I love about the Alexander technique, because we are always changing. We're growing older. We're having different experiences in our life. Things are happening. And the more that we can educate ourselves about who we are and what is happening in our environment, and then apply it to whatever skill we're doing, be it acting or singing or playing an instrument, then we have a greater sense of how to develop that skill or that technique that we're doing. No, it's total. And what's also, I think, important, my best friend actually is a violinist, so her and I have a lot of conversations about this, because there's so much rehearsal that has to go into it. Yeah, she's in a quartet. Yeah, she's in an orchestra. That doesn't matter at all. She's traveling all the time with her violin. It is her baby. It is her thing. She's on a vacation with me. She's still practicing every single day. And for whatever reason, I think especially actors, there's this assumption that it will come to me in the moment, or I will seize it in. And yes, to some degree, you want to be flexible and improv. But again, what Alexander technique specifically does for people is it allows them to notice tension in their body that I'm always noticing prevents actors from reacting in the direction that their impulse is telling them to, or the direction that they want to go, but then they hold back because they get in their head, or they think it doesn't look right, or they're worried about the camera, or whatever. And so when you notice tension patterns, habitual tightness that you do, or strain, you can let that go, and you're freer to make decisions that are, again, going to hopefully come from a place of authenticity, where you feel grounded and more present and more, in the scene, so to speak.
How long do you think a new actor should study before they are ready to start auditioning?
My answer might be unique in the sense that I feel like I should say that somebody should have X amount of time, but actually I'm less dogmatic than that, because I think people do have a certain level of talent that they're born with, And then when they hone their skills, they only get better and better and better. So I would say audition or do as much work as you possibly can. It's the same thing people told me when I became an Alexander teacher. They said, you want to be a great teacher? Teach. Teach a lot. Teach all the time. You want to get better? Just keep teaching. So I went out and I was like, can I teach you? Can I teach you? Can I teach you? Who can I work with? And I put my hands-on modality, as much as I could. I talked to people as often as I could. And I think that really lent itself to me becoming a stronger teacher, honestly.
Thank you. Is there a benefit to studying more than just one technique?
Yeah.
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 It's kind of a no-brainer.
Education. I think the more you know, the more you bring to all of your work, be it in the arts, be it in life, in your relationships. I just am a proponent of education. So the more that you learn outside of just one specific technique, it's usually there are cross references and things always come together. What you're learning and maybe individual therapy all of a sudden shows up in a voice lesson. Oh, I get really tight in my throat when I have an emotional song that I'm really connecting to. Oh, who would have thought? My voice is connected to my emotions, which is also affecting my stomach and my gut. We try to separate mind, body. It's not possible. The body does not lie. It shows up in the voice, it shows up in the breathing, it shows up in your face, it shows up in the way you hold your hands when you have nothing in them. Right. So I think studying as many techniques as you can, some techniques are going to resonate with you more than others. I think that's just, to be a human being. So sometimes people will come to me and say, Morgan, I want to learn the Alexander technique. Okay, I can teach you. You have to learn. So if I give you homework, if I give you things, if you come back and you didn't do constructive rest, you didn't read the things I asked you to, you didn't watch and observe or notice things throughout the day, it's not my money and my time wasted. So I feel like maybe it's kind of a hard cut way of speaking as a teacher, but I just think, again, I know I'm a strong teacher and I know that my students learn and that they grow and change. I can't change somebody's personality, but what I can help them do is become aware of their areas of resistance. And sometimes, people, often my husband teases me. He's like, who'd you make cry this time? Because everyone's always crying, and it's because and sometimes they don't even know. They say, I don't know why I'm crying. I think the question is more, we're more curious and interested than it is like a need to know. I don't think we always need to know the reason behind things. And I think in that case, I think, when you free up your body, you kind of let go of things that maybe you weren't aware, you were holding on to. And some people don't want to do that, to be honest. Yeah. Like sometimes I'll give somebody an assignment. They're like, that's hard. I'm like, you want to be an actor? Like I'm not the actor. So if you want, if I'm asking you to stretch, be creative, think outside of what you're, and I think sometimes learning techniques, not just Alexander technique, any technique, I think it opens you up and your brain to thinking about different ways to approach your work, be it acting or art or whatever your work is. You have to really be okay with looking at yourself. When you study any sort of technique, you have to be okay with sort of shedding light and really digging a little bit deeper into yourself about what makes me tick. Why do I respond the way I respond? Why am I acting this way? Why does my brain go to this direction? Can I explore other ways of thinking? And my background, I'm going to diverge, okay? So I came to Alexander Technique as an actor. So my background is in theater. I have a degree, according to my degree, I'm an actor, okay? And it was I know, it's like, but I actually think it's the best piece of paper ever. It's funny, I feel like I could do anything as an actor, right? But my movement teacher got me into Alexander Technique. He was becoming a teacher, and so he was looking for some folks to work on, and I loved it. I've never done drugs, but I'm assuming that's what drugs felt like. I felt like really high, and I was like, oh, I just felt so open. And again, I think I mentioned my brother died when I was 15. I just turned 15, and then he got meningitis. I was molested when I was 8. So I had these events that I think kind of shaped who I was and sort of imprinted themselves on my body. So I didn't have physical pain because I was only 18 at the time. I had what I call internal pain. And so when I started to open myself up, my breathing freed up, my mind freed up. It took a while, but then all of a sudden I was willing to go to therapy, like really not quit after a couple weeks, which I'd done 7 or 8 times before. But I started to open myself up in a different way. And that really made a difference. And then of course, fast forward, and I was like, oh, I'm really good at Alexander technique. Like that, when you find something you're good at, and I like helping people, I like serving and helping other people grow and develop and change. So I don't pursue acting or theater anymore. However, that's my background, and I think I always like to share that, because sometimes, again, people think that you have to have back pain or neck pain to go, to go to this work, and I'm like, no. You could just be a frazzled mom who's dealing with a pandemic. Like, this technique is applicable, and if you have an interest in really learning about yourself in a deeper way, I don't know anything better than this technique.
Awesome. What do you think will make actors in the Atlanta market better actors as a group?
Yeah, so I think in Atlanta, I think there's, on the one hand, there's so much opportunity, right? Because we have so many people coming from elsewhere, bringing all of their productions, et cetera. On the other hand, we don't have built up this sort of infrastructure as far as education is concerned, right? We don't have as many theaters, we don't have as many training programs, conservatories, and I think that is a missed opportunity for actors, because they don't have as many chances to expose themselves to different ways of approaching their work. But I think it's 2020, you can use the internet. Everybody is seeing that right now with this pandemic. You can use other alternative ways to take in information. I think far too many people don't read longer than like a post. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity, because the library is stocked with amazing literature. And that is another wonderful way that actors can open up their minds to become more skilled and more advanced. And then if you don't see people doing what you want to do, flip and do it yourself. If they're not making enough, creating enough roles for women or people of color, like, go and do that. Become a producer and expand your muscles and exercise your different skill set in a different area. I think actors sometimes pigeonhole themselves, thinking that they're at the mercy of other people who are either casting them or representing them. You are your own person, and you can create opportunities for yourself, and everybody will benefit. Yes, I think that if Atlanta actors were able to see the importance and to identify how voice classes, how movement classes, how different acting techniques are going to better benefit them, they would take them. I think that sometimes they're either suggested to things and they come up with reasons, oh, I don't have enough money, oh, it's not important. If you want something, you will make it happen. And I think it's important, because as an actor, it is not just your physical body, it's not just the words you're speaking, it's all parts of you. In fact, I talk to a lot of people who do presentations about this. The statistic is 7%. Is that what they say? I think they call it a 7% rule. So the study is that when you communicate, right, when I'm talking to somebody, only 7% of what I say is communication. That leaves 38% to my vocal inflection, the pace at which I speak, my tone of voice, and then 55% is body language. That's facial expressions, hand gestures, the way that I tilt my head, the way that I do something with my, whatever. And so if you think about that as a performer, we are communicating and telling a story to individuals, be it on the screen or in a theater. And so the more that you have an understanding of what you are doing when you use your voice, when you use your body, and when you use your skills as an actor to perform, then I think you have a better chance of being really a well-rounded and diverse actor. Alexander technique, again, is not about posture, and it's not about voice, and it's really about turning a mirror on who you are and finding, where am I interfering with myself? Where am I getting in my own way? And if I stop getting in my own way, can I allow my natural talent that I've been working on in my, Strasberg or Uta Hagen or Meisner or whatever technique that you're studying, right? And then letting it shine. And that's just for you to know. You don't necessarily have to put that there, but I think people sometimes, again, think I don't know what people think Alexander technique is.
I get it.
Well, and the thing is I think what's also important about any technique, and I get this a lot with Alexander, people are like, oh, I already tried Alexander. And actually my violinist friend is a great example.
Yeah,
so
I tried that in a
yes.
workshop. Well,
So my violinist was like, because all musicians, right, if they go to a conservatory, Juilliard, Yale, NYU, they all study Alexander technique. Why? Because you use your bodies. And if you don't, that's your livelihood. You will be out of the orchestra. So she was like, oh, I hated that. And I was like, oh, okay. And we took this, Staten Island ferry. It was free. She was visiting New York. And I was talking to her. That's all I did. I didn't touch her. I didn't sell. I just told her what I love about it and what it means to me. And the next day after she got home, she flew back. She was calling me. She's like, I'm in my car, and I just keep noticing how tight I grip the steering wheel. Like, I don't have to do that. Why am I doing that? And then she's like, next time you come to town, I want to study with you. Lo and behold, of course, now she's like an avid AT fan. She has her whole quartet learning it. You know what I mean? Like, she understands the importance, because if you, and I compare this a lot to people, I'll say, if you took a piano lesson with somebody and you didn't like the teacher, no, they smelled, I didn't like their approach, they seemed bossy, you wouldn't be like, oh, I'm never learning the piano. No, you would go find a different piano teacher. And the same thing is applicable for therapy, Alexander technique, a Meisner teacher. It's the more that you expose yourself to different teachers and different techniques, you'll eventually come to something that I think would be ultimately like a little hodgepodge of all the things you've learned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say that I wanted to really learn AT, the Alexander technique. How much time should I expect it to take from day one until I've really learned it?
Oh, that's a good question. So let me put it this way. You specifically, Jayson, or any actor?
Any actor.
Any actor.
Who's willing to do the work.
Okay. Unfortunately, there's not a clear-cut answer, because somebody could come and have really good proprioception, what we call proprioception, and that's your ability to sense what's happening in your body. What I mean by that is when I touch somebody, I'm like, oh, did you feel how your shoulder dropped? And they're like, no, I didn't notice that, because they're disconnected. They don't notice their body. Some other person might come to me and say, oh, I noticed that completely. And so depending on the person's level of proprioception, their mind-body connection, so to speak, will determine the pace at which they'll probably learn.
Best case, worst case.
Okay, so best case scenario, they could probably pick it up in 3 months. Every single week, coming in 3 months, they could probably pick it up. That being said, after 3 months, and this is when I always tell students, because I'm honest when they call and they inquire, at 3 months after you've been studying, typically speaking, people want to continue. They don't want to stop. They like it so much, they see the benefits. Oh, my body's changing. Oh, I'm getting better. Oh, I'm improving. Maybe their frequency at which they study gets a little bit more spread out. So now I have, but they're still in it. They're still revisiting and coming back and refreshing. Sure. They're checking in, and then maybe they get a role that's a little bit more difficult. I had one person, she was on a set with some high names, so she got nervous, and okay, I think I should come back and revisit and just look at my breath and how I'm showing up in the world, what's happening when I'm stressing. So I think in those cases, they keep, you're interested. After that much time, a student is interested. Worst case scenario is that your learning is a little bit more delayed. Say it takes you 6 to 12 months, but at that point, you're already in it for 6 or 12 months, so you realize, I care about this.
Got it.
I don't know it yet, but just like you don't know how to play the violin is awesome, you're enjoying the process of learning. So it's the process of learning that makes the technique enjoyable. And that's why I tell people, some people take it very seriously. Oh, and they fix and they try. And I say, no, you have to have fun. Slouch. Yeah. Everyone likes a good slouch. Yeah. However, know you're slouching, you know? And so I do a lot of, and I'm just going to do this for you because I always do this with my actors. So I tell them, let's say that you're playing the Hunchback of Notre Dame, okay? And you're like this. I'm the Hunchback of Notre Dame, okay? I always tease people, your understudy is going to be so happy because you're not going to last on Broadway, okay? So, however, I could release my neck and allow my head to freeze so that my vocal cords are free, and I could use my body hinging, still having an arch. So I'm using my body in a way that's more efficient and a little bit more healthy, so to speak, still staying true to the scene. Yeah. So I think it's important to realize where we interfere again and where we're preventing and holding back and stressing versus where we're allowing ourselves to, we call it let go.
Got it. Yeah, that's what
I'm an expert in the Alexander technique. I'm an expert in what I do. I know I'm good at it. I'm not an expert in my students yet. Right. So they show up, and to what degree they want to learn and apply things, that's up to them.
All right, I'm going to ask you the final question.
Yeah, do it.
What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, stop. Please don't ask me this question.
I'm asking it. You don't have to ask.
I'll answer it. Okay, my guilty pleasure is reading stories about true crime. And I think reading or watching,
Yeah.
and I did hit, I think, an all-time low recently, which may cause me to take a break. Do you want to know what caused it?
Yes, yes, yes.
That new Netflix show that they just put up about that guy in Colorado. He killed his wife and his 2 little girls,
Yeah.
3 and 4. And man, that one, his like 1-minute sentence about what he did to those girls, and I was like, yeah, that might be, because I have 2 small
gotta stop.
daughters. So I was like, I think I've just taken away whatever pleasure I had of them.
Well, I
So,
tell you what, I am not watching that.
yeah, no, don't do it.